I still remember the exact moment everything changed. The conference room looked the same. Glass walls reflecting the afternoon sun, the hum of the air conditioner, the soft scrape of chairs on the polished floor. But nothing was the same. Because the man standing at the head of the table wasn't my boss. He was my coworker, Greg Turner, and he had just finished presenting the pitch for our biggest project of the year. I sat at the far end of the table, heart pounding. For the past 18 months, I had poured every ounce of energy I had into developing Project Aurora, the schematic designs, the prototype models, the patent application, every detail. I'd worked late nights, skipped vacations, and even slept at my desk to be the first to spot any flaw. When we'd pitched the initial concept 6 months ago, our department head had called it visionary. And when I'd filed for the patent last quarter, I'd felt the familiar spark of pride and relief. It was mine, my idea, my work. But Greg, with his crisp navy suit and perfectly gelled hair, walked in today as if he owned the room. He clicked the remote, and the screen behind him lit up with the Aurora logo, an abstract swirl of light that I'd drawn late one night, and he launched into our story as though he had invented it himself. "Ladies and gentlemen," he began, voice smooth and confident. "What if I told you we could revolutionize renewable energy storage with a system that's not only cost-effective, but also scalable to municipal levels? That's exactly what Aurora does." My jaw clenched. Every slide, every diagram, every bullet point was lifted straight from my folders, my charts, my patent application. He even used the exact phrasing I'd drafted in my executive summary. Aurora bridges the gap between theoretical efficiency and real-world application. Halfway through, I saw our department head, Ms. Lawson, lean forward, brows raised in admiration. She wasn't looking at him. She was looking at the screen, at my story seemed to work. But in that room, the author of those ideas was Greg. When Greg wrapped up with a flourish, the room erupted in polite applause. He smiled and swept his gaze around the table, landing on me. "Thank you all. I look forward to leading Aurora into full production." I remained still, the applause echoing in my ears. I had no idea what to say or do. The last words out of Ms. Lawson's mouth were, "Excellent presentation, Greg. You really made the case." After everyone filed out, Greg approached me with that infuriating grin. "Hey, Amelia, great presentation, right? I knew you'd kill it." I forced a smile. "You did a great job," I said, voice tight. "Thank you." He clapped me on the shoulder and walked away, leaving me staring at the empty room. My patent was registered in my name, but in their eyes, Aurora was Greg's triumph. And in that moment, I realized I had a choice. I could let this slide, or I could fight back. That night, I sat at my kitchen table under the harsh glow of a single lamp. My laptop displayed the official patent certificate. Amelia Chang, inventor. Beneath it, a hyperlink to the U.S. Patent Office. My name in black and white, undeniable. But in 3 hours' time, in front of half a dozen executives, it had felt like a footnote. I opened my notes from the morning's presentation. On page 1, Aurora, concept, Amelia Chang, February 2023. Page 2, prototype testing, March-July 2023. Page 3, patent filed August 1st, 2023. Every page meticulously dated, time-stamped, and backed up on the company. Server under my user ID. I saved the document as Aurora Credits Proof PDF and emailed it to myself at my personal account, an off-network address Greg could never reach. Then I drafted a message to Ms. Lawson. Subject: clarification on Project Aurora ownership. Body: Dear Ms. Lawson, I hope you're well. I wanted to follow up regarding today's presentation. While Greg delivered the pitch masterfully, I wanted to clarify that I am the lead inventor and patent holder of Project Aurora. Please let me know when we can schedule a meeting to ensure proper credit and attribution moving forward. Best, Amelia. I hit send at 9:47 p.m. My pulse raced with excitement and a touch of fear. I knew how corporate politics worked. You didn't challenge a successful presentation by a charismatic colleague without risking backlash, but I also knew I had the law and the patent on my side. The next morning, I arrived at the office to find the message already flagged as important. Greg was nowhere in sight. I found Ms. Lawson in her glass-walled office, phone to her ear, looking every bit the worried executive I'd seen in presentations about intellectual property disputes. As soon as she hung up, I knocked on her door. "Ms. Lawson?" I motioned me in, swiveling to face me. "Amelia, thank you for coming. Please sit." Her tone was polite, but her eyes were sharp. I settled into the chair across from her. On her desk lay 2 printed folders labeled Aurora, Project Files, and Legal, Patent Documentation. "First," she began, "I want to acknowledge your tremendous work on Project Aurora. The board was extremely impressed." She paused, and I braced myself. "But," she said, "I also have to consider the optics. Greg's presentation was flawless, and the board is already talking about promoting him. I can't promise anything immediate." My heart sank. "I understand," I said, nodding. "But legally, the patent is in my name. If we roll out Aurora under Greg's leadership without correcting attribution, we open ourselves to potential lawsuits. And worse, we lose credibility." She sighed and leaned back. "You're right, of course. I've looped in legal. They're reviewing the paperwork now. In the meantime, I'd like you and Greg to co-lead the next phase of Aurora's rollout. Publicly, the board will present it as a team effort." "Thank you," I replied, relief and frustration mingling in my chest. A team effort meant a partial victory, but it still left Greg riding an equal wave on my work. "Legal suggests a formal letter clarifying inventorship," she continued. "I want to send it to our partners by end of day. Can you draft that?" I blinked. "You want me to write their press release?" She smiled sympathetically. "You're the expert on Aurora's origins. You'll frame it correctly, then we'll finalize it together." I left her office with a folder of guidelines and a sinking feeling. I was about to give them the words that would publicly assert my claim, but I was also giving Greg the language to continue sharing the credit. Over the next 2 days, I poured every ounce of precision into that letter. I wrote about my inspiration, how watching my grandmother struggle with unreliable power in the countryside inspired me to develop a scalable storage system. I detailed the 7 prototypes, the $2 million of private funding I'd secured, and the exhaustive testing that proved Aurora's efficiency. I cited the patent number and included direct quotes from my application. I sent the draft to Ms. Lawson, who forwarded it unchanged to the legal department. They added boilerplate and a request for signatures from both Greg and me before distribution. When I saw the final public inventorship statement come back, 2 paragraphs followed by our signatures, I felt a hollow victory. We signed it in the same room, Greg extending his pen first with a smug grin. He didn't say anything, just scrawled his name beneath mine. That afternoon, the email went out. Subject: Official Inventorship Statement. Project Aurora. To all partners and stakeholders. We are pleased to confirm that Project Aurora is the collaborative effort of our R&D team, led by patented inventor Amelia Chang and co-developed by senior engineer Greg Turner. We look forward to your continued support. Within hours, the announcement appeared on our intranet and was forwarded to press outlets covering renewable energy. Greg's LinkedIn lit up with congratulatory messages. I received a handful of polite, "Great job" notes, but nothing like the flood that poured in for him. That evening, I found myself scrolling through LinkedIn. A headline from Berkshire Green Tech News caught my eye. Aurora set to disrupt energy storage. Patented innovation. From Chang and Turner. The article was fair. It mentioned my name first in the subheading, but the accompanying photo was of Greg, giving a thumbs up in front of a mock-up of long battery cells. My heart twisted. Even when I fought to get credit, the visual narrative favored Greg. I closed my laptop and stared at the ceiling. I'd played by the rules, legal claims, proper channels, yet nothing felt just. If this public image persisted, investors would see Greg as the face of Aurora, and when the next technology rollout came, he would be the one promoted. I realized then that I needed more than paperwork and polite emails. I needed a dramatic shift, a way to make everyone see the true architect behind Aurora. The very next morning, I walked into the office wearing a smart navy blazer over a crisp white blouse, outfitted to present, not for paperwork. I had arranged a meeting with Ms. Lawson and Greg under the guise of discussing the next phase of testing. But in reality, I had a different plan. In my bag was a sleek matte black USB drive labeled simply Aurora Demo Final, and a stack of access cards. Only I had the encryption key. No one else did. If Greg or the execs wanted to see the latest beta version, an interactive simulation of Aurora's grid interface, they would have to come to me. At 9 a.m. sharp, I entered Ms. Lawson's office. She looked up from her desk, eyebrows raised. "You're early." "I wanted to ensure everything's ready for the demo," I said, smiling. "I have the latest simulation. It's a game changer." She studied me, then nodded. "Bring it in." Greg was already there, arms folded. He shot me a questioning look. "Ready to co-present?" I nodded. "Together, but I think you'll want..." At the annual company gala, Ms. Lawson presented me with a glass award etched with my name and the words, "Innovator of the Year, Aurora Project." As I accepted it on stage, applause echoing around the ballroom, I scanned the crowd and locked eyes with Greg. He offered a small, genuine smile, and I knew we had both grown. When I stepped off stage, I found my grandmother in the front row leaning forward. I waved, and she mouthed, "I'm so proud." I walked over to her and hugged her tightly. "Thank you," I whispered. She patted my back. "You earned it, my dear." That night, as the city lights gleamed outside my apartment window, I reflected on the journey. I had started as a quiet researcher, content working behind the scenes. I never sought the spotlight, only justice. When Greg tried to claim my work, I could have let it go, dismissed it as corporate maneuvering. But I didn't. I fought with the tools I had, the patent, the legal channels, and finally my own demonstration. And in doing so, I discovered something more profound than recognition. I discovered my own voice. I realized that ideas are only as strong as the person who defends them. Aurora was more than a project. It was a testament to perseverance, integrity, and the belief that no one can steal what's rightfully yours if you're willing to stand up and say, "This is mine." As I turned out the lights and climbed into bed, I whispered into the darkness, "Good night, Aurora. Here's to the future we'll build together." And for the first time in months, I slept soundly, my dreams illuminated by possibilities as bright as the northern lights that had inspired it all.